have to listen Vipassanā Kusala, Vipassanā wholesome deeds. At the present time, people are afflicted with the evils of akusala, unwholesome deeds, such as greed, anger, delusion, jealousy, based upon the sensation obviously arising from the six sense doors at every moment of seeing, hearing, contacting, and knowing. Why these akusala, unwholesome states, greed, anger, delusion arise? These unwholesome mental states arise because people do not truly realize the characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, impermanent, suffering, and non-self, the natural phenomena that manifest at the moment of seeing, hearing, etc. So the practice of Vipassana meditation is to prevent any opportunity for the occurrence of lobha, greed, dosa, anger, moha, delusion, and so on. If you really know the true characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, the Dhamma that has been so realized with deter lobha, dosa, moha from arising. This deterrent effect of greed, anger, etc. is caused by the faculty of Vipassana Kusala, merits derived from Vipassana meditation. The reality of Nama Rupa are conspicuous only for a very brief moment when they occur. That is why contemplation should be made while they are in the process of arising and becoming. Only when contemplation is carried on at the moment of their arising, you can know and realize the true nature of their characteristics. So Mahasi Sayadaw have composed this motto: real awareness of the phenomena can take place only when contemplation is made at the moment of their arising. To cite an example, a flash of lightning only occurs and is seen at the moment of its flash. So if desirous of seeing the gleam of lightning, it must be observed while it flashes. The brilliant light is not visible and noticeable after the flash has vanished, and it could not be seen by mere imagination before the electricity is discharged to produce a flash called lightning. And the genuine paramattha of rupa and nama is obvious only when it is in the process of arising. When it has vanished after arising, it no longer exists. Before it arises, it was not yet in existence. As such, if it is contemplated after dissolution, the reality cannot be known. Also, before it arises, the truth cannot be known by imagination. Only when contemplated while it is occurring, the true nature in its originality can be realized. Only after knowing its phenomenal nature, awareness comes as to how it begins to occur and how it dissolves instantaneously. So Mahasi Sierra have composed this motto: only when its true nature is known, the initial arising and the beginning and the final dissolution can be perceived. Here, Udaya Baya. Udaya means arising or appearance. Vaya means dissolution or disappearance. So it is usually stated as arising and dissolution. Then awareness becomes sharp and active while contemplating the phenomenal nature of rupa and nama. At every moment of their arising and dissolution, the real paramattha of rupa and nama will be clearly perceived with insight knowledge as to how they begin to occur and end in dissolution. This realization cannot be perceived by only reciting a nature, impermanent, arising and dissolving a nature. It cannot be perceived. Only when you know the truth, personal knowledge and realization of these rupa and nama are achieved. In fact, impermanent, since they vanish immediately after arising. This phenomenal occurrence is described in the form of a motto in brief. Awareness of the nature of impermanence takes place only when arising and dissolution is perceived by the sense. When a nature is seen, when a nature is realized, dukkha and anatta are known. When you see and realize impermanence, you also know suffering and non-self. Contemplation of the phenomenal nature of Rupa and Nama with the characteristics of Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta is the genuine Vipassana meditation. It is therefore essential to contemplate and note continuously the arising phenomena of Rupa and Nama at every time of seeing, hearing, contacting, and knowing. In order to bring about the development of genuine Vipassana knowledge, contemplating and noting as such is to be regarded as practicing Vipassana meditation. So how to contemplate and note, and how consciousness arises at the moment of seeing, how to contemplate according to the teaching Dete, Deta Matamboisati. We have to contemplate and note seeing when we see the sense object. It is quite similar to what has been preached as Gichandowa Gichami Dipa Janati. If walking, while walking, it is known as walking. While walking, you are to become aware as walking. When contemplating and noting in this manner, awareness of the true nature of Rupa and Nama, which are manifested at the moment of seeing, will take place. According to the text of Dhamma, the manifestation of Rupa and Nama at the moment of seeing may be stated in this way: Chakunja Paticca, Rupeja Paticca, Rupeja Upijati Chaku Vinyanam, Dena Singati Paso, Pasabhijya Vedana. Depending upon the eyes or depending upon the visual objects, seeing consciousness arises. The three factors, the eye, the visual object, and the knowing mind, having taken place together, sensation of touch has occurred. Because of this contact, feeling or sensation arises. That means depending upon the clear eyes, eye sensitivity, and the visual object, the eye consciousness arises. Seeing takes place because of the presence of the uh, eye sensitivity, eye rupa, and sense object of sight rupa. As such, at the brief moment of seeing, the eye rupa is obviously present, as also the sense object rupa and the eye consciousness. ordinary people do not practice meditation the whole life. So an ordinary person without the knowledge of Vipassanā imagines that things that is seen or things that is perceived is I see. When he see beautiful things, joy and happiness take place, it is considered as being good. In the same way, the eye sensitivity and the whole body are considered as being permanent and pleasurable as his own self and a living entity. The object of sight is also considered as being permanent, pleasurable, and living entity and atta. It is how pleasurable attachment takes place at the time of seeing a sense object that is life. On the other hand, when a lifeless sense object is seen, an ordinary person will think it as material elements or an object that is known by name or manifested piñati. But when you are meditating, you meditate continuously. When you are meditating continuously, or when you are contemplating and noting, mental hindrances are subdued and your concentration has become strong. And every time yogi sees or hears, he will notice distinguishingly that eye sensitivity and the material visual objects are quite different from his perception and consciousness of the mind that contemplates. Then the eye consciousness and the eye, the visual object, and the awareness which have occurred are all vanishing instantaneously after seeing has taken place. So they are realized as being impermanent. So they are considered as misery, which cannot be relied upon, and also as unpleasurable. They are also realized as merely phenomena, which is not an atta, which is not an living entity. Those yogi who are accomplished with keen intellect, we know that what is seen and what is considered to be a bad or pleasurable sights are simply impermanent, suffering, and non-self. This knowledge is the real Vipassana insight knowledge, which realize and see the truth through the characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, on and after contemplating and noting at every moment of seeing. So Vipassana has been expounded in the commentary as anicca di Vasena Vividena Akarena Pasatiti Vipassanā. According to various forms or characteristics, for being able to contemplate and realize things, Vipassana, it is known as Vipassana. The manner of such realization in brief is expressed in the following words. So at the moment of seeing, you capture the eye sensitivity and the visible object, that is rupa, that is metta, rupa which does not know or which has no feeling of the sensation. And then you capture seeing consciousness and knowing, these are nama. Consciousness or awareness through contemplation is also nama. Psychophenomena. For having vanished and ceased altogether immediately after seeing and knowing, and becoming conscious through contemplation of what is happening. It is evident that these are nature of impermanence, suffering and non-self. And then hearing, people do not practice Vipassana. So in the case of ordinary whirling, at every moment of hearing, all what is heard, the ear, rupa, eardrums, the organ which hears, and the audible sound, are considered as being permanent, pleasurable and good, and as an atta being. It is avijja. It is ignorance. Ignorance does not know the truth. Ignorance does not know what is right. Based fundamentally on this ignorance, avijja, misery and suffering such as sankhara, vijnana, etc. have occurred. When you practice Vipassana meditation continuously, all nivarana, mental hindrances are subdued, and your power of concentration becomes strong, while you are contemplating and noting as hearing, hearing. Every time you hear and you will know distinguishingly, because you don't care the sweet sound or ugly sound, you don't care. You just note hearing, hearing, hearing. So every time you note hearing, hearing, you will know distinguishingly that the eardrum, ear organ, and the sound wave are rupa metta. They are different from the consciousness of the sound wave and the knowing mind, which are nama. The eardrum, the audible sound, the consciousness of hearing, and the knowing mind vanish and then cease immediately after they are noted. then you know that all are impermanent, suffering, and non-self by nature. This is the genuine Vipassana insight knowledge, which is shown and the truth realized by the characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So when you're really mindful, when you know to continuously Namarupa you can capture. At the moment of hearing, you capture eardrum, you capture the sound wave, which do not know the sensation, they are rupa. You capture what is heard and realize is nama, mental, and consciousness which arises through contemplation. Noti mind is also nama. For having vanished and ceased all at once, after awareness of the sound that is heard, and after the arising of consciousness through contemplation, it becomes quite evident that these are merely the nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self anatta. So you practice sute, suttammatamboisati, you just note hearing, hearing simply. You don't care any other conceptual state. And the smelling. People do not practice meditation, and in the case of ordinary whirling, every time an odor is smelt, the sense of smell, the nose organ, rupa, and the odor are wrongly considered as permanent, pleasurable, and good, and as atta being. This is avijja, ignorance, not knowing what they truly are. Based upon this ignorance, sankhara and vijnana, misery and suffering, sankhara and vijnana, etc., occur. You practice Vipassana meditation according to the teaching Mute Mutam Matam Voicity. When you smell, you note smelling, smelling. You are contemplating and noting as smelling, smelling. Every time an odor is smelled, mental hindrances, nivarana, are subdued. When the power of your concentration becomes highly developed, you will come to know distinguishingly that the nose and the odor, rupa, are different from the smell. They are different. And you distinguishingly know that the consciousness of smelling is also another. They are known as being different from one another. The nose, smelling, the odor, and the awareness through contemplation on noting mind are found to have vanished and ceased altogether after becoming aware of what has taken place. So realization comes that they are by nature impermanent, suffering, and non-self. This is the genuine Vipassana insight knowledge that penetratingly knows the truth of the characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So when your meditation is good, at the moment of smelling, smelling according to the teaching Mute Muttama Tamboisati. You capture the nose and the odor. These are rupa metta, which are not capable of knowing the sensation. And then you capture the consciousness which knows the smell, that is nama. Awareness that takes place through contemplation, noting mind, is also nama. Since all cease to exist all of a sudden, after knowing the smell and after becoming aware of it through contemplation, it becomes evident that they are merely manifesting the nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, nada. And then tasting or eating. What is meant by the expression at the moment of eating is while knowing the taste, looking at the food, seeing the food are relevant to the expression, moment of seeing, or while it is being seen. Handling or holding the food, putting the food into your mouth, and chewing the food are only concerned with contact or touch which is taking place. While chewing and eating, the tongue that knows the flavor is awareness of eating the food. People do not mindful. We are not mindful when eating, so every time the taste is known while eating, ordinary worldlings are under the wrong impression that awareness of the taste, the tongue rupa, and the taste itself are by nature permanent, pleasurable, enjoyable, and an atta being. This is ignorance. This is avijja. Basically, depending upon this ignorance, sankara and vijnana, mental formation and consciousness, etc., such as misery, occur. So when yogi practice meditation, yogi practice continuously and mental hindrances such as pressure, kamicchanda, vyavada, nirvana, etc. are subdued, their concentration becomes strong while they are contemplating and noting the taste as knowing. Every time they feel and know the taste, they will distinguishingly know that the tongue and the taste are quite different from their consciousness of the taste and knowing mind. The tongue, consciousness of the taste, and the taste itself, and awareness that occur, vanish and cease immediately after they are noted. So realization comes to them that these are by nature, inherent nature, impermanence, suffering, and non-self. This realization is evidently the genuine Vipassanā insight knowledge, which knows the truth of the characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So at the moment of eating and knowing, the yogi capture the tongue and the taste. These are rupa, which are incapable of knowing the sensation. Eating consciousness and knowing consciousness are nama. Consciousness or awareness through contemplation, noting mind is also nama. After becoming conscious of eating and becoming aware of what is taking place through contemplation, all immediately vanish. For this reason, in fact, they are by their own nature impermanent, suffering, and non-self. And then touching. The expression at the moment of contact, tactile covers a very wide scope. What is seen can be prevented from being seen by closing the eyes. As regards hearing, hearing can be prevented by going to a place where the sound cannot be heard. Consciousness that arises in smelling and eating may occur only at times. However, in regard to contact, the sense of touch, tactile, by bringing your minds to be aware of the whole physical body, the feeling of contact is obvious. When contact is made with any part of the body, or in other words, when the sensation of contact pervades the entire body in any space whatsoever. Without bringing the mind into the heart, or without being conscious, there are things which become automatically obvious of contact or touch. When you are sitting, the feeling of touch in the lower portion of the body is conspicuous. The contact of your body or any parts thereof with clothes are also clearly perceived by the senses. You feel and know clearly the contact that is taking place between the teeth and the tongue in your mouth. Flesh and blood, etc., are also found to be always in touch with each other. When walking and changing the postures, sense of touch in the bodily limbs involved in maneuvering is obvious. Every time breathing is done, the movements of the air elements, the propelling force of the movements and touch are obvious in the nose, in the belly, or in the abdomen. Also obvious are the contacts which are caused by the condition of heat and cold. In connection with all such contact and touch, the ordinary worldling think of themselves as their own self. They wrongly conceive that consciousness of context is taking place always. When good and nice contact or touch are felt, they think of these as being nice and good. These are erroneous concepts viewing anicca, dukkha, and anatta as being nature, sukha, and atta. As such, these indicate avijja, ignorance of the truth. Based upon this avijja ignorance, miserable conditions of sankhara, vijnana, etc. occur. Now yogi is meditating continuously. Yogi contemplate and knows such occurrences as touching, touching, or contacting, contacting. In particular, when you practice walking meditation, it must be continually contemplated and noted as walking, walking, or stepping, right, left, right, left, or lifting, pushing forward, dropping, and so on. This is the way of contemplating with awareness or mindfulness in accordance with the teaching or guidelines given in Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Pali, it says, Gichandowa Gichamiti Pajanati. When walking, yogi knows as walking. In this regard, the manner in which consciousness or awareness arises by contemplating as know as walking. The three words as stated needs special attention. It should be known and understood as rupa metta or form. No instruction has been given to contemplate and to be aware of it as vayodhatu, air elements, conveying the sense of absolute truth or reality. Nevertheless, while even contemplating and noting as walking, walking, expressed in three words as earlier stated, yogi will know and become aware of the pressure of stiffness and pushing force, which signify the nature of movement. Or yogis become aware of the pressure of the changing postures. Also when standing and so on, while contemplating and noting as standing, standing, sitting, sitting, lying down, bending, stretching, shaking, changing, etc. Yogi realized the true nature of the vayodhatu, the elements of motions or air elements. Then when sitting, yogi contemplate and note as rising, falling in line with the three expressive words of instruction. At every moment of the arising and falling movements of the abdomen, the true characteristics of air elements that propel and cause stiffness and motion will be vividly known. There's one peculiar feature while contemplating the rising and falling, that is, at the end of the process of the rising movement of the abdomen, falling begins to take place. In the same manner, when falling comes to an end, it begins to rise again. There's no interval, there's no break in this process of rising and falling, as in the case of sitting or contacting, sitting or touching. Contemplating and noting should be carried on as rising, the moment rising has ended, and vice versa. As continuous contemplation and noting are made as such, mindfulness that occurs before and after the continuing process, your concentration, which occurs before and after, being conjoined or closely joined, and in as much as concentration is gained, Vipassana is acknowledged, we occur. This is a peculiar feature in contemplating the natural phenomena of rising and falling movements of the abdomen. However, it is not that only rising and falling should be contemplated and noted. While contemplating and noting is being carried on as rising and falling, thinking or imagination that occur should also be noted as thinking or imagining. Stiffness, hotness, pain, if manifested, should also be noted when they occur. Any change in postures, if done, should not escape notice by contemplation. Hearing and seeing, which occur at the moment, need also be contemplated and noted. In the absence of anything in particular which is to be noted, it should be reverted to the contemplation and noting of rising and falling. The propelling force, stiffness, and other physical movements that takes place during contemplation and noting are the true nature of air elements. Consciousness or awareness of the contact or touch that occurs is touching consciousness, kaya vinyana. So at the moment of the arising consciousness of contact, it is distinguishingly known that which is in contact with the body is rupa, whereas the sensation of contact and knowing through contemplation are nama. So at the moment of awareness of the contact, which is contacted with the body, you know that it is rupa, which does not know the sensation. And consciousness of the contact is nama. And noting mind or awareness through contemplation is also nama. You capture these nama and rupa. And thinking, imagining, attachment to the imagination that arises is intense when people think highly of himself as his own self or a living entity. This imagination and knowing mind are considered as being always permanent and everlasting throughout the lifetime. Imagination runs uncontrollable, and action taken to devote to the work of imagining according to his wish is considered as being good and pleasurable. So there is mere ignorance with the erroneous conception that all such things are permanent, pleasurable, and safe. Also, based upon this false view, ignorance, misery, such as Sankara, Vijnana, etc., occur. So, because of this, Vinyata Mattam Bodhisati, yogi have to know thinking, or imagining. So that is Vipassanā meditation. And according to Bhattikarata Sutta, yogi should not spend all of his time and energy to the pursuit of never-ending worldly pleasures. It is better to practice meditation so that he will not find himself helpless on his deathbed without any reliable Dhamma achievement to support him. So Buddha reminded all of us constantly that we have to practice meditation effectively beforehand as long as there is time. So Buddha said, Ichiwa kicha matapang god zinya marana suwe. Nahino singarandena mahasinina michuna. That means today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come, who knows? No bargain with mortality, no agreement with mortality. And we cannot keep death and his army away. So this is Buddha's teaching in the Bhattikarata Sutta. Regret is useless if we do not practice meditation, although we have the opportunity. We feel regret when we are sick, when we are old, when we are weak, when we lying in our deathbeds, or when we are reborn in the lower realms. Before it is too late, we have to keep in mind the Buddha's admonition. So Buddha reminded, Jayata bhikkhave mapamadatta mapicca vipatisarina ovota ayavo amaka nusasani. Bhikkhus, meditate, do not delay, or else you will regret it later. This is Buddha's instruction to you. So that is Buddha admonitions. So according to his admonition, we just meditate. We should not delay. So meditation for a few minutes.